So when T.I. makes that statement, and we talk about, you mentioned that you got exposed to his comment via a clip. Many people get exposed to the gospel in clips and clicks sound bites and small nuggets. And so when you were saying, hey, I got exposed to what he was saying in a sound bite, many people get exposed to the gospel in the same way. And your study of the local church, your involvement in local ministry, your engagement with leaders at a local level, that is not what gets amplified, celebrated. And when I say celebrated, even if that celebration is criticism, it's not what gets magnified. What gets magnified is Pastor Jamal Bryant talking about his wife's dress in the pulpit, right? That's what gets magnified. What gets magnified are the things that are sensational, large, charismatic, loud, out there.
That's true.
You know, in the forefront. And so as you were looking at that, and even you asking me that question, like, how do you manage, you know, that part of your personality? That's a big part of it. The charisma, the outfrontness, you know, the larger than life of it all. And the people that often get put out there, amplified, highlighted, are people that have those same characteristics. The local pastor with 100-member congregation that is feeding the folks twice a week and doing hospital visitations and going and talking to brothers and sisters that are incarcerated. Those aren't the people. The people doing the quiet work day in and day out. Those aren't the people that I think T.I. was even talking about.
Jesus said before, you know, he left the earth, he said, make disciples of all nations. He didn't say make consumers of Christian content. Because I think...
Say that again, sir. I'm going to need you. I'm going to need you to say that again.
He said make disciples.
Yes.
In other words, devoted followers of Christ, not make consumers of Christian content. And I think when we are trying to create consumers, then we need a great show. You know, a great show, I'm going to pay for the show, I'm going to come consume it, I'm going to enjoy the show, and I'll be back next week. You know, and I think somewhere along the way, that has become part of the Christian experience in the United States of who's got the best show.
Welcome to With Love, The Chambers.
Where life, laughter, and lasting lessons meet.
We're The Chambers, a husband and wife navigating faith, family, and everything in between.
Here we share real stories, heartfelt conversations, and a whole lot of love. Because life isn't perfect, but God's grace sure is.
So pull up a seat, grab a cup of coffee, or go ahead and sip that tea, and join us for honest talks, laughs, and the wisdom we're learning along the way. This is With Love, The Chambers.
This episode of With Love, The Chambers was brought to you by the Vision Engineering Collective, where purpose meets strategy and vision comes to life. If you've been enjoying the stories, the laughs, and those deep life lessons, we invite you to support the show and help us keep the love flowing. Head over to www.coff.ee/withlovethechambers. Think of it like buying us a cup of coffee or two. As always, thank you for hanging with us. Now back to the show.
Welcome to this week's episode of With Love, The Chambers. I am Jamila Chambers here with the Vision Engineer himself, Rufus Chambers, and we are so excited to welcome you back to this week's episode. Every single week, we thank you for your listening, for viewing, for liking, for sharing, for hitting us in the comments, for sliding into our DMs and letting you know how much this podcast has made an impact on your life. We're so grateful that you tune in to us every single week and that you were just on this journey with us, this with love journey with us. And so, Rufus, how you be today, sir?
Doing well, feeling good about this year and, kind of how things are moving, on a personal level.
Yes.
Obviously concerned about some things that are happening in the nation and in the world, but regardless, still feeling good about where we're at.
A tremendous amount of gratitude. You were feeling good, with the exception of something that irked you a little bit, which is the topic of this week's discussion. That something came across your feed in the interweb.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a clip from Kirk Franklin's podcast, Den of Kings. And T.I. was on that particular episode and made some comments about the performative nature of church in particular.
Yes.
About how the church felt like a place where...
His words, not ours.
Yes, his words, not ours. And I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
But the church felt like a place where people performed and not necessarily a place where people were fed spiritually. And you just said, yo, we need to talk about that. This needs to be a whole episode. We need to, you know what? Just so you know, our last episode, we talked about planning.
Yes.
And so part of our planning and prep for what we're going to talk about week after week is we just have this ongoing exchange about topics and things that we want to talk about and things that are interest to us. And this one in particular kind of kept coming up to the top of the list, kept coming up on the feed, and particularly piqued my interest as well around this performance conversation. There's a conversation about performance in the church, but there's a conversation about performance and performative behavior just in general nowadays, which I think is interesting. But before we get into all that got under your skin, sir. Say more.
Well, wow.
Where do I start?
Yes.
Say more, sir.
So anyway, our beloved Kirk Franklin,
yes,
one of the most well-known and popular gospel recording artists
yes,
in modern history, has this platform, Den of Kings. And what he's doing is he's inviting very popular men to sit at a table with him and have conversations. And, I find it interesting or challenging sometimes when I see some of our most popular, Christian artists or Christian celebrities or Christian pastors, they have these platforms and how they use them sometimes can be a concern of mine. So I think when I first got exposed to the platform, I was like, oh, wow, he's going to be having real talk with men and giving them opportunity to share and express. And I don't watch the platform. I just see clips. And one of my disappointments about the platform is it seems like Kirk is opening the table up to have conversations, but he's not really mentoring and guiding the conversations, from a real seat of authority, because all the clips, I just hear people just making statements, right? So lo and behold,
I have watched several full episodes.
Yeah, I've never watched a full episode, but I've just seen the clips. So lo and behold, here we have T.I., making a very accusatory statement about the church, the body of Christ, Christ's bride, if you will. And his statement was that, he's never been able to connect with it. It feels like a Broadway show. That, he grew up with a grandmother who was one of those tambourine tapping, can pray heaven down people. And he said, hey, I believe in the word, I believe in God, but I just can't do church. And when I first, heard that statement, when people sometimes make statements like that, it feels like it's a cop out, to say, oh, I love Jesus, or I love God, I just can't do this Broadway show. And it's like, number one, the church is more than the gathering on Sunday. And, we're being invited into a life of following Christ. And that life is not only about the gathering, but it's how we live our lives, how we treat other people, how we speak, how we act, how we behave, how we operate within our marriages.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing them say that, it's kind of like, bro, you capping.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and I don't know this, brother, so I'm just spitballing, but, if you want to live how you want to live, that's fine, but don't try and make it sound like, because the church has an element of entertainment, right? So that was my first initial gut reaction, like, here we go again. A famous person is going to be on some platform tearing down the church. I don't go to church because of this reason. But then over time, over the, week or two, I was like, there are times when we validate the point that he was trying to make. Okay. So that's why I was like, wow, this is a real fun conversation to kind of explore both sides of the coin, regarding performative behavior in secular and non-secular environments. And me, I've devoted a large portion of my life to the local church and to ministry and to research, to analysis, to all this stuff. So it's obviously personal for me. But I think, you brought some balance to say, wow, let's have a larger conversation. Let's not only explore, performative behavior from the lens of the local church, but also just in everyday life, right? And I guess, Jamila, for you, and this is you have a very big personality, right? I mean, you are on, right? But you being on is indicative of who you are as a person. But I'm sure sometimes it feels like work, right? So when you think about your own life, your own day-to-day in secular and in non-secular environments, how do you live and manage with this kind of performative behavior culture, or if even if that's how you would categorize it? Like what say you, about performance?
It's interesting, and I have talked about it on this platform before, that people have certain parts of their personality that are just celebrated. And when you have an outgoing, extroverted, larger than life, big type of personality with a lot of charisma, that is something that people applaud and people celebrate.
Yeah.
I have a gentleman that is right off camera to my left that we were doing a sound check before coming into this podcast forum. And he said, say something really, really loud. And I almost blew the ear. This is my podcast voice I'm giving y'all so that you can listen in your cars and listen in other formats and have a
we
comfortable.
Praise God for that. Yeah.
We praise God. Rufus is like, could you give me the podcast voice all the time, right? Because my typical speaking voice, if you hear me talking on the phone, it's a lot of loud and variation and a lot of tonality and, because I need you to feel.
Come on, relish.
What I am saying.
That's right.
I need you to pick up what I am putting down.
There you go.
In a lot of formats that is celebrated. So when T.I. makes that statement and we talk about, you mentioned that you got exposed to his comment via a clip. Many people get exposed to the gospel in clips and clicks and sound bites and and in small nuggets. And so when you were saying, hey, I got exposed to what he was saying in a soundbite, many people get exposed to the gospel in the same way. And your study of the local church, your involvement in local ministry, your engagement with leaders at a local level, that is not what gets amplified, celebrated. And when I say celebrated, even if that celebration is criticism, it's not what gets magnified. What gets magnified is Pastor Jamal Bryant talking about his wife's dress in the pulpit, right? That's what gets magnified. What gets magnified are the things that are sensational, large, charismatic, loud, out there.
That's true.
In the forefront. And so as you were looking at that, and even you asking me that question, like, how do you manage, that part of your personality? That's a big part of it. The charisma, the outfrontness, the larger than life of it all, and the people that often get put out there, amplified, highlighted, are people that have those same characteristics. The local pastor with 100-member congregation that is feeding the folks twice a week and doing hospital visitations and going and talking to brothers and sisters that are incarcerated. Those aren't the people. The people doing the quiet work day in and day out. Those aren't the people that I think T.I. was even talking about. Typically, what keeps people out and what keeps people away,
who's in the headlines,
are the headlines. And so when you talk about the headlines and the sound bites and the clips and the clicks, how can we just as people be more discerning, go further? Just like you didn't want the local church to be evaluated based on that, how can we, and I want to ask you this, as a leader in the Lord's church, as, a minister of the gospel, how can we invite people beyond that clickbait?
Yeah, I think that, number one, I think we need to remain true, right, to the core tenets of our faith. And I think when we're engaging with people who may be on the fringes or outside of the faith, or who may be critical or who may be curious, as we engage those folks in conversations, we have to be able to share a wider breadth of what the faith, the gospel, a life in Christ is all about. But I think a lot of times we get so caught up in trying to invite a person to church as if, oh, you not in? Come here.
Right.
And then they come there and they're like, what is all this about? And I specifically, it's funny, with T.I. I remember he was at church. He was at Jamal Bryant's church. And I don't know if, some people know. He was at Jamal Bryant's church the Sunday Kanye West was there, for his music.
Sure.
And that same Sunday, there was a very well-known Word of Faith pastor there who I think was either preaching or presenting and did a very strong offering while T.I. was there. And I know T.I. was very vocal after that. Said, hey, this feel like the strip club. Oh, they got some ballers out front. We got to go get that paper, T.I., he shoots straight. Right?
Yes.
So when I heard his comments on Kirk Franklin's podcast, I thought about that like, wow. And that was probably a few years ago.
Sure.
But I think, again,
that's the narrative, though.
That's the narrative. So I think our messaging has to, go back to the authenticity And that's why I love to talk about the Book of Acts, when people
Sure.
was meeting in living rooms like this, and
Sure.
Sister Sally would be there, and Brother Bill would be there, and we would be communing,
Sure.
discussing the faith, discussing the apostles' doctrine, praying for one another, the breaking of bread. It's almost like we have to reclaim our faith
Mm-hmm.
from clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And yes, there's a place and there's a need for the local assembly, for the corporate gathering.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not the entirety of our faith. So I think that's kind of where it starts. One of my favorite authors, Dr. Eric Mason,
Mm-hmm.
out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he recently wrote a book about rebranding the church
Mm-hmm.
for this very reason. And it's funny, this week, because we do be out in these TikTok streaks, he posted a clip, and it was brilliant. Dr. Eric Mason posted a clip from BMF,
Mm-hmm.
the Stars series about BMF, the Flannery brothers, Big Meech,
Mm-hmm.
his brother Terry, whatever. I mean, if y'all don't know who that is, you don't have to look that up. Just take my word for it. But anyway, there's a TV.
You can Google them or watch BMF.
Yeah.
It was a good series too.
It was, yeah. Yeah, they the first season, while we talk about it, the first season was good, and then I don't know what happened. It just
the writing changed a little bit.
Writing production changed. But anyway, we
watch
digress.
season 1. Yes.
We digress. But anyway, Dr. Eric Mason posted a clip from the series, and one of the main characters, Big Meech's mom, was at like coffee with the pastor, her pastor, who's being played by Snoop.
Mm-hmm.
And Snoop, the pastor, kind of makes a subtle pass at the wife,
Mm-hmm.
the mom, in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And when the wife, politely says, "Hey, I don't need that. I'm looking for prayer or whatever." The pastor kind of responded, just like, "Oh, well, check please and cut the bill in half," in other words. And Dr. Aaron Mason was like, see, these are some of the narratives that we need to correct, that need to be rebranded. Every time the church is presented, it shouldn't be presented with such a derogatory fashion. I mean, you and I, we just watched that movie out of the Knives Out series. Sure. And the central theme within the movie was centered around that small Catholic church, and it had some negative images regarding the local pastor or father of that congregation. So, I think, and I know we're kind of diverting from the performative nature, but, we gotta be clear on presenting the fullness, of the gospel. And that's why I get concerned with some of these popular Christian figures, what they present on their platforms. You know what I mean? I'm like, what y'all doing? Y'all going on a Breakfast Club to promote a product, or we trying to make Jesus famous? Like what's happening here? You know what I mean? But I hope that answers your question.
And to be critical and to get to the root of it is that every stereotype is rooted in something.
That's true.
These folks didn't get this out of thin air.
Yes.
T.I.'s experience. T.I.'s experience.
Strip clubs.
Yes.
And in the church.
And had that. And
some similarities.
And had that same feeling of
I'm getting shaken down.
I'm getting shaken down.
Have mercy.
And whether that was a true intent or not, there was someone that came to the Lord's church and had the feeling that they were getting shaken down.
Yeah.
Which was the same feeling and experience they had somewhere out in the world.
Yeah.
And so with all of that, how can we be critical of ourselves?
Yeah.
Because we have not attended, you and I have not attended our grandparents' church. We can look at the instrumentation. We can look at the presentation on a Sunday. We can look at it ain't brother and sister so-and-so in the choir. You got to be able to sing. Speaking of the TikTok streets, there are many memes and jokes around. If you cannot sing, if you are a joyful noise maker like me, stay out the praise team, right?
Yeah.
Because this is for the professionals. This is for the... And so that is where we are now. And there is 100% truth to that. It is, in many ways, a production. There was one brother on TikTok that said, no, we plan out our services down to the minute. There is not going to be anything different that happens in our worship service. And folks are responding like, well, where is the allowing the movement of the Spirit of God? What do you mean you plan everything out?
Yeah.
So there is some anchor of truth that narrative is built upon.
Yeah.
So what do we say to our local assemblies about how we can engage this generation, do a new thing, invite folks in, but not have anybody feel like they getting shook down and I want you to turn your pockets inside out before you leave?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, Jesus said before, he left the earth, he said, make disciples of all nations. He didn't say make consumers of Christian content. Because I think...
Say that again, sir. I'm gonna need you. I'm gonna need you to say that again.
He said, make disciples.
Yes.
In other words, devoted followers of Christ, not make consumers of Christian content. And I think when we are trying to create consumers, then we need a great show. A great show. I'm going to pay for the show. I'm going to come consume it. I'm going to enjoy the show, and I'll be back next week. And I think somewhere along the way that has become part of the Christian experience in the United States of who's got the best show. You know what I mean? I want some good singing. I want some good preaching. At the end of the day. And there's a place and a time for that. But again, that is not, we're not being called to that. Christ said, take up your cross daily and follow me. He wasn't, I mean, come on. Picking up a cross and following Christ has a different feel than I'm at the show.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm performing.
Exactly. So I think, in our, and we've talked about this in the past, but in our Western capitalistic culture, the church, much of the church, some of the church has bought into that, where, hey, I gotta balance this checkbook.
Sure.
And more people gonna come the hotter the show is, and again, people like T.I. who are on the fringes, like, I see what y'all doing.
Sure.
I see that Bentley outside.
Sure.
I saw your preach at the Rolls Royce, dealership, trying to stunt like me or whatever. But the flip side is, for every one, mega church that has this hot show per se, there's 1,000 churches that are, between 50 and 75 members that it's not a show. It is an earnest, humble gathering, in the Lord's name, right? Well, there will be prayer, there will be devotion, there will be singing, there will be teaching or preaching or both, and there will be an invitation to follow Christ. You know what I mean? So but to your point, we do have to be honest with ourselves about where did this criticism
Sure.
originate. And it originated with some real case studies, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've been to school.
Yeah.
We know what the teacher come in the
Sure.
classroom with a case study,
Sure.
you know, and we got to own it,
Yeah.
you know, we got to acknowledge it, and we got to do some reflection and some self-correction. You know what I mean? If the goal is to create followers of Christ, you know what I mean?
Mhm. If that's the goal.
If that's the goal.
If
If
that's
there's
the
another
goal.
goal.
And when we were having this conversation about the performative nature of
Yeah.
things, like T.I. feeling like, hey, there's no distinction
Yeah.
between this performance in this form versus another. You started this conversation really talking about the responsibility of the platform that we might all find ourselves in, whether that platform is in a leadership capacity in your professional role, whether that's within your marriage or your relationship, whether that's within your community. There are just so many different platforms and places that we find ourselves. And what has been difficult, and you and I talk about this all the time, and we use this statement, can your life preach? And we make statements, and you and I do this all the time, like, can people follow us home? Like when we are literally in our house, when the cameras go off and the mics are disabled, is our conversation going to be the same when no one else is watching? Or is this a show? Is this a performance? Is this something that is a put on?
Yeah.
And part of, I think the subtext of the conversation, which is why I wanted to go there, is that so many people lack credibility because there is a outward life.
That's big for you.
Oh, that's huge for
You
me.
can't stand.
You want to talk?
Oh, don't hear me. Y'all got to hear me.
Y'all got to hear.
Y'all got to hear me up in here. One thing, Jamila.
One thing for certain, two things for sure.
Yeah. Why don't you explain that to the people? Let's keep it a buck.
So
Off the altar and just say what gets you chapped.
One of the most difficult things for me, look, you know when Black people put their hands like this,
synchronized
with the synchronized hands, and the head shake.
Yeah. Y'all
don't hear. And for the people that were listening, you got to come watch the visual, or you got a mind's eye picture about what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's so difficult for me is for people to be someone different than who they say they are.
Why
is that? I don't know where I got that from.
Gets you so.
Oh my goodness.
That thing will work you up.
Oh my goodness. And I don't know where it started.
Okay.
I really don't know where it started. But I know one of the things, and I've shared this on this platform and so many times, that I came to my faith as a full adult. I was 30 years old when I came to the faith. And one of the things that kept me away was church folks in particular, espousing the things of God, verbally presenting this piety, and being, quite frankly, judgmental and condemning, of people that didn't worship like they did or present like they did, and all of those things, only to find that you were saying those things, but privately, you were living another life, got outside kids, doing whatever.
Help us.
To T.I.'s point, at least at the strip club.
You know what it is.
When they ring that bell.
When that bell.
I ain't even never been to the strip club, but when they ring that bell, because I watch Players Club with Ice Cube, when the light go off or when whatever the indicator is that there's some ballers up front, at least in the strip club, the ballers know what it is.
They know what it is.
When I come into
a sacred
environment,
I want to know what it is.
I want to know who he is. I'm not coming there to feel like I'm objectified in the same way. And so I felt very passionate about that in the context of my faith, because that is what for many years kept me from accepting Christ. Because I said, at least the people out there, right, wrong, or indifferent, are who they say they are. Mm. But even within my personal friendships, within my friendships with my close girlfriends, who I consider them to be sisters at this point, we've been through way too much for me to even call them friends. It's like not about perfection or not. I just want you to be real, because I need that. Mm. And that's the other thing. You putting on a show for me does nothing for me. Mm. It does nothing for my healing. It does nothing for me trying to navigate. Mm-hmm. It does nothing for me trying to find my way through. That does nothing for me. Mm. But you saying, girl, I blew it. Yeah. Man, sis, tell me more. Yeah, because now I can learn. Now, and you know what? Me saying, sis, man, I was off with this. I struggle with that. Mm-hmm. Now, you know what? You're not feeling like you have to have it's so many different spaces where, especially as Black women, we have to be perfect. Yeah. 3 times is better, faster. I was telling somebody the other day, I have an all Black woman team of doctors. My primary care doctor, my OBGYN, my podiatrist, all Black women. Why? Because I said, I don't care if we are a crossing guard or a physician. Black women, if they doing a job, they had to be the best one in the room to do it. And to keep it, they have to be 3 times better to keep it. I don't care what the job is. Mm. I don't care if you're a teacher. Jesus. I don't care if you checking groceries.
That's an episode.
I don't care. That's a whole episode. But I know that from my lived experience.
Yeah.
I could never.
This DEI cap is so much of a cap.
Oh my goodness, that's a whole nother. Yeah, I could never not do it.
Out,
yes. So when I go into that environment and I got a team of all Black women physicians, I know they was the top of their class. I don't care what their paperwork say. I don't care if they got the acknowledgement or not. I know what they had to do to sit in that room and to be in that place where they could be my physician.
Yeah.
Because I know what I had to do to sit in spaces to be someone's professional in a corporate environment.
Yes.
I know what I had to pay. I know what I had to pay to check somebody's groceries. Let me take it back to the early 1900s. To check groceries, I know what I had to pay.
To prove
I had people tell me, and I'm not making this up, I wasn't qualified to check their groceries.
Have mercy.
And this was back when you had to learn the produce codes. Let me help y'all. You had to learn them produce codes by heart. It wasn't no little sticker. Now they got stickers on all the produce. This is some nerded out grocery store talk. They had stickers on all the produce. Back then you had to remember by sight. You had to identify.
What that banana is.
Come on. 4011. Come on now. Don't test me. Don't test me. I'm still with it. But and look on your bananas. It say 4011. That is the universal code for bananas. So you had to know that by heart back then. And you were tested on it too every week. And so in order for me to qualify for that job, I couldn't just learn the 50 codes that everybody else had to know. I had to know 100 codes by heart, fast, quickly. That was just to check groceries. So I have that level of confidence in Black women when I see them in any capacity. I don't care what the job is. And so when you start talking about credibility and authenticity and why that is so important to me, It's for all of those reasons, for my growth, for my learning, for my maturation, for the authenticity in the relationship. No one needs to spend time with me for me to play with them.
Yeah.
We only got 20 minutes to be on a phone call in between picking up kids and all. We don't have time to play. I might not be able to talk to you for another month. Do you know what happens to us mentally and emotionally and on our jobs and within our families? We don't have time to play around with each other.
Yeah.
And perform, because we got to do that out there.
Yeah.
We got to do that to survive, quite frankly.
Yeah.
We have to have a different vernacular, a different word choice, code switching, the whole nine.
The whole nine.
I had locks for many years in my hair. That was controversial.
Yeah.
To be in a corporate environment in this space. We are still talking about how sisters wear their hair at work. So performing and being somebody else for me is huge. It is huge. And it's so important that when we get those moments and we get those spaces to be together and to be in relationship with one another, that it's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a real
Authenticity
thing.
Is so
Authenticity
important.
is so important. Yeah. It's so important to me. And it's what's needed to work through sticky parts in relationships too.
That's true.
Because if I can't take accountability and say, girl, I'm grown. Hey, sis, I blew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't handle you well.
Yeah. Accountability.
I was having a conversation with a sister the other day, and we were sitting. What's that place on Slauson?
Which one?
I keep wanting to say The Good Life.
Good Life.
Oh, I'm messing it up.
Oh, yeah. Slauson and Overhill. Simply Wholesome.
Simply Wholesome.
Simply Wholesome.
Put it in the chat. The Good Life was an old hip hop club back in the 90s that the Far Side used to do a cipher there every week. It was called The Good Life, and used to pull up on that. And for some reason, I grabbed that before I grabbed Simply Wholesome in my mind. But I was at Simply Wholesome with one of my covenant sisters, one of my really good friends. We were having one of those 2-3 hour conversations over some smoothies, and
that was a smoothie.
Smoothie gone at that point. Smoothie gone at that point. So we just taking up space in the restaurant. Smoothie gone. But we having this conversation, and we have grown up together. This is a woman that's been in my life since we were just kids, and we were having a tough conversation. And I said to her, I didn't give you the feedback maybe in a way as direct as I would have because I mishandled you in the past. I have said some things to you in the past that I had a certain intention with saying something to you, but I didn't choose my words well enough in the moment. And it is one of my regrets to this day that I hurt you, you know, with my words. Like, this is a verbatim of the conversation that I hurt you. That I hurt you with my words like that because I didn't have the maturity at the time.
Yeah.
I was just zealous. And it's not that I take back what I said. I still stand 10 toes down behind the sentiment. But boy, I could have said that a whole lot differently.
Yeah.
I could have said that a whole lot differently. That's the kind of conversation.
Authenticity.
That's the level of authenticity that I require. That
Speak the truth in love.
That I require. And that's biblical.
Paul said. That's right.
But that's the kind of authenticity that I require, because that's what gets us through these seasons and these challenges and these. I might not talk to my good sis for another month. Like, we had a moment and we need to maximize that moment.
Yeah.
We don't have time to.
That's a whole thing.
We don't have time to play around with it. When we leave that table that we were sitting at, we're going to go back to our worlds and we got to be back on again. We're going to go back and we're going to be leading our teams and we're going to be doing our things and with our families and you know, navigating through the things of life. We got to go back and put that armor back on. But when I need you, I need you. And I can't have people around you that I can't have like that level of conversation with. Because all that other stuff. That was for me in high school. That was high school talk.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out who got the shiniest and who's the baddest and all of that. That's high school.
Yeah.
You know. And there was a time and a place for that, and that was fun and that was cute. But I don't have that kind of time right now.
Right. That's right.
I don't know what I was talking about before we got on.
Oh, we up in the heart of this thing. We was talking about authenticity.
Breaking down authenticity and performative behavior and why we may feel like we get compelled to be in those spaces and do those things. I want to flip it back to ministry a little bit and ask you to kind of weigh in on this piece of it, because we talked about kind of this shift in the local assembly where some of that criticism was birthed in the ways the presentation of the gospel can happen now. As pastors and leaders, do you feel compelled to keep up with those that are getting the clicks and the likes and creating the Christian content, because you want to be relevant in the space and you need to embrace, the ways people are engaging with you? There are people that only engage with our podcast. It's funny. Every single week somebody says, well, where do I listen to the whole thing? I saw the clip and the snippet and but there's a whole thing. Y'all doing the whole, there's a whole episode. I thought y'all was just doing this piece of it. So there's a need to be in the space, but how do you navigate that tension as a leader in the local church, as pastors and leaders? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's funny, within the last week, I put together an outline to talk, and this will, be some leadership module that I'll teach eventually one day, but about, really the need to combat competition, in ministry settings and where the origin is in scripture. And when I'm not, going to get into that now, but to answer your question is, yes, we have to safeguard our hearts and minds from envy, from jealousy, from competition, sometimes from ambition, because again, our flesh wants to take control in secular environments and we have to resist it. That's why, the Apostle Paul in Romans talks about presenting our bodies as a living sacrifice. In other words, presenting ourselves daily, a daily sacrifice, so that doesn't happen. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to make Jesus famous. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. We talk about the book of Acts, the second chapter, thousands were added to the church after Peter ministered that day. And that was a measurable success. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. There's nothing wrong with celebrating that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And now we're billion strong. That's a metric of success. But we do have to protect ourselves from ourselves, because we don't want pride. We don't want ego. We don't want greed to take center stage and then dominate the local church or dominate the platform or dominate the presentation of the message. That is a problem. You know what I mean? And I know sometimes, we're, we have a sacred message and we want it to reach people. And I think we have to go back to being good stewards over what God gives us, the resources he gives us, and do it to the best of our ability and be okay with the outcome. Again, the Apostle Paul taught about learning contentment when you're in abundance and when you're in lack.
Mm.
You know what I mean? People don't want to talk about that, but yeah, that's literally, in scripture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think, as us, being on this road of following Christ, we have to understand that's part of our development. That's part of our maturation. You know what I mean? And, praise God for these people with these amazingly big platforms that are reaching millions daily and making money and, doing this, that, and the other. Hey, praise God. But even regardless of your measure of success, we have to present ourselves, to our Father.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to challenge ourselves so that the fruit of the Spirit is being personified in our platforms or in our behavior, in our relationships, in our vocation. You know what I mean? So I think it's about going back to the basics.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like people like T.I., yeah, you're going to say what you say, but hey, let's, I hope there are believers in his sphere of influence that are representing Christ well to him.
Sure.
And saying, wow, you seem to really believe what you believe and living what you believe. That's to me what it's all about. And, in closing, I know I sound like a speaker there, but in closing, that's why I love the movie Forge.
Yes.
That the Kendrick brothers recently came out. That movie to me, talk about rebranding, Christianity. It does such an excellent job of reminding us what discipleship is and what our faith is all about. It's not about the stage. It's not solely about the stage. It's not solely about the smoke, the lights, the camera, the action. That movie was built around the discipleship of one young man, one young man's journey to be transformed through this life in Christ. And it was beautiful. I left the movie theater so encouraged and revigorated. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. You know what I mean? Those followers of Christ, he said, I will make you fishers of men. It wasn't a platform. It was in the daily followership of Christ, and their lives were forever transformed. And God used them eventually to do great exploits in the name of Jesus. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's just about, back to the basics, but that movie blessed me. And the
yes,
movie, I reached out to one of the actors.
You did.
After the fact.
You did.
What is it?
No, not after the fact. We were at the movie theater and had not made it to the car. And you were hitting him on Instagram. There you go. There you go. Talk about after the fact. No, sir, immediately. You reached straightway. Suddenly. And shout out to the Kendrick brothers.
Yes.
Because if you ever want to watch any encouraging content, Fireproof, Courageous, The Forge, anything you see the Kendrick brothers do. And in ministry, we've used their content quite a bit too, because they typically have study guides and small group directed conversations that you can have from their content as well. So those are great resources, especially for small groups and church leaders to watch that content, utilize those study questions and study guides, and then be able to kind of keep the conversation going after watching the movie. And Fireproof was particularly around marriages, and Courageous had a wonderful theme as well for men. And just outstanding content. So shout out to the Kendrick brothers. And if you ever need some extras, because honey, one thing they do, they'll pull somebody out the church. If you ever need an extra, you have found a true fan. The brother could not wait. He said, I reached out after the fact. No, sir, we hadn't even we hadn't made it to the car. You reaching out. So that's how you feel about that content. So closing thought, and I will let you I see. There we go. He was trying to punt to me.
He was on a roll.
Listen, but
Authenticity, accountability, and authenticity. We need to get Jamila a T-shirt that says accountability and authenticity. The AA club.
Just say a real one.
Go. A real one.
Just a T-shirt that say a real one.
Looking for a real one.
A real one looking for a real one. But it is so important. So and you touched on it, but I really want you to underscore it. For anyone that feels like, whether it's in a ministry context, whether it's in a family, whether it's in a leadership capacity in any way, that they have to perform to keep up, that they have to be something that they aren't. One of the greatest compliments that Brother Marlon, we were at dinner with Brother Marlon Hill, and Brother Marlon, he's going to listen to this podcast because he checks out.
That's my dude.
Yes, it is. Marlon, don't send him no cars.
Hold up. Cars and Country Wayne. We inseparable. Oh, Cars and Country Wayne.
Marlon, I'm asking you, brother, and if you listen, in Richmond, oh Lord, and the rich,
we deep in the game together,
and the rich. And what's Marlon brother name?
KK.
KK. When you got a brother named KK from the rich,
there you go.
It's just anyway. Yeah. They are connected.
Absolutely.
Marlon, and then we just gave out Jared's book.
Twice.
Yes, we just gifted. What's the name of his son's book again? Oh my goodness, Jared
Something
Hill.
About Black Saints.
Yes. Oh my goodness, just because we're trying to think about it. But Marlon has a very talented son, Brother Jared Hill, who is a talented journalist, speaker, now author. But he wrote an excellent book, which is a kind of fun read about Black vernacular, and we just can't think of the title. It's in the kitchen. We just can't think of the title of the book. But you just gifted that to two people this holiday season. Yeah. So check out Brother Jared Hill, Marlon's son. I don't know where I was going with that besides the performative nature and feeling like you need to be who you are everywhere you are. Always saying Marlon gave us a great compliment. And one of the things that Marlon said to us recently at lunch is he said, I know y'all.
Yes. Yeah.
He said, I know you all. You know, you two are people that are personally known to me. And it was the greatest compliment. He said, one of the things I appreciate about your podcast is that I know the conversation that you're having with the microphones on is just a conversation that we would have had with him and his wife, Joby, at lunch.
Yeah.
And they come to LA and often and always look us up and all that stuff. And so this is just mic on a continuation of that, which is one of the greatest compliments, which is that level of authenticity that we value. You talked about me valuing it personally, but we value it.
Yeah.
We value it. Yeah. Anybody that's ever heard you minister or has had the opportunity to talk with you privately, especially at men's meetings in particular, you are very transparent and candid and vulnerable and all the things, because that is a currency that we both value. You make fun of me about it, but it really is a us thing from that perspective. But anybody that's feeling compelled to leave that mask on, what say you to them is kind of that final word of encouragement? And shout out again to Marlon. Thank you for that compliment. But that final word of encouragement.
I would say, if you're in a place where you feel like you're just constantly performing, I realize you probably have some responsibilities that may be trying to encourage you to perform. But I feel like in this season and this life that we're living, it's really about becoming, acknowledging who you are and then identifying who you desire to become and work on a path to make progress there. Performance is performance, right? We know that some people want you to tap dance, for whatever reason, but I never encourage people to live a life of tap dancing. It's all about becoming You know what I mean? And if you're in a precarious spot now where you feel like you got to perform, to pay your bills or whatever, acknowledge where you're at, but let's chart a path so that you can, make some adjustments, because every person that solely performs, they get tired.
Yes.
And there will be a reckoning where the rubber meets the road when you will be unable to perform. And, as a follower of Christ, Christ invites us into a life where we can take his burden. He said his burden is easy and his yoke is light. And I'm paraphrasing that scripture, but there should be a peace as a part of this life that he's inviting us to live. So that's my closing thought.
Yes.
On this. I believe this has been a very rich conversation.
Yes, it has been.
And, maybe T.I. may listen to some of this.
Listen.
We may get tipped a rubber band man to consume a portion of this.
We ain't mad.
So,
we ain't mad. We got room on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, y'all, we're going to sign off. We say thank you for tuning in to this very special broadcast of With Love, The Chambers. We invite you to hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the comment button, hit the subscribe button. Help us get the word out. Share this episode with somebody you know that could benefit from this conversation. As we mentioned in our previous broadcast, we are being very intentional. We're trying to help you get results in your life. If there's any topics you would like for us to tackle or discuss, feel free to send us a DM, email, text message, however you can get in contact with us. We encourage you to do so. And with that, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you again next time. God bless.
This episode of With Love, The Chambers was brought to you by the Vision Engineering Collective, where purpose meets strategy and vision comes to life. If you've been enjoying the stories, the laughs, and those deep life lessons, we invite you to support the show and help us keep the love flowing. Head over to www.coff.ee/withlovethechambers. Think of it like buying us a cup of coffee or two. As always, thank you for hanging with us. We'll see you next time. With Love, The Chambers.
That's a wrap for today's episode of With Love, The Chambers.
We hope you laughed, learned, and felt encouraged along the way.
If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs a little love and wisdom today.
You can also connect with us online on all social media platforms at Rufus Chambers Online and at Jamila Chambers. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time,
keep living, keep laughing, and keep learning with Love, The Chambers.
Shag it together.
Shag it together. Man, you got your skirt on. Did you feel it? Got on a need some leggings. Rufus has also lost weight, but his mind ain't caught up to it. So every time he buys something, he buys stuff too. Like, it's one thing if it was in the closet, but you're gonna keep buying stuff that's too big. So now you get talked about, cause
exactly. See, you know what's up.